If we could, Linda, I'd like Bob to also explain some of the new laws or some of the tools that he's now provided with, I think, from the changes within the last few years.
Sure.
Absolutely.
That might have been a little bit different. In fact, I think also, if you don't mind, one of the things that concerns me a great deal is everybody does a Monday morning quarterback. Everyone says, why didn't they do this? Or why did the judge let him go on parole the first time? I happen to know the judge that was involved that made a final decision on this, and I find that she is probably one of the most compassionate judges I know. I have served with a lot of judges through my 24 years of practicing law, and I find that she's one of the best jurists that I've seen. She has the ultimate concern for the safety and welfare of children. So she's getting a lot of flack now, and I find that to be not warranted at all. Bob can explain some of the situations as to why that happened.
I mean, I should say it fortunately has come out a little bit more in the news today, but the gentleman, the man who we're talking about, was being supervised on probation. He asked to be released from probation, and his probation officer fully supported that. So the Department of Corrections representative supported discharge. This judge, to her credit, said, no, it's too soon. You need to stay supervised for at least 2 more years. So she got criticized, but in fact, she rejected what the administration through the probation officer was asking for. Totally unfair to criticize her under those circumstances. John and his committee, the Senate Judiciary Committee, working with the House Judiciary Committee, really strengthened our laws. We now have a presumptive 10-year minimum sentence, and that means all other things being equal, you commit certain serious sexual offenses, you're going to jail for 10 years. We have given the judges some latitude to come down from that number if there's a compelling reason to do that, and they put it on the record, but they can't come down below 5 years. So we already have a mandatory minimum sentence of 5 years and a presumptive sentence of 10. Maybe more significantly or equally significantly, we now have what's called indeterminate life. And that means you commit one of these specified sexual offenses, your maximum sentence is life, and you are supervised for the rest of your life. I mean, that is hugely important, and is absolutely a reflection of how serious the legislature has taken these crimes, and reflecting their understanding that we need to keep an eye on these folks for a long, long time. Those laws were not in effect at the time that Mr. Jakes was convicted of his last offense.
Back in '93.
Back in the 90s.
Right.
So this is very, very important changes.
Oh yeah, definitely.
The thing now that I think is also important, and this is the one that came out of the national media, the Jessica's Law. Now, Jessica's Law is named after a young woman, a young girl who was raped and murdered in Florida, Jessica Lunsford. Tragic story, just absolutely tragic story. And as a result of that, the Florida legislature was obviously bombarded, with the same type of media we are. Why are we protecting our children and whatever? And so they saw fit to then bring into effect what's called Jessica's Law. Part of it is, number one, they have the death penalty in Florida. We do not have the death penalty here in Vermont. And most people think that if a person sexually assaults a child, they automatically should be put to death. The Supreme Court, our United States Supreme Court, just recently ruled that the death penalty cannot be used in that unless, of course, there's death resulting. There's some other criteria there, but they've already set forth that. But in addition to the Jessica's Law having the death penalty, they also call for, again, this 25 years of minimum mandatory sentence. Now, we talked about it a little bit before, but I think this is really important for people to understand because, again, your gut tells you, why not give them all 25 years? Well, it sounds good, except for those cases, as Bobby has pointed out, that if we don't have the physical evidence, and if the case is weak, or if we have a trouble with the witness, the victim, and there's a chance that the case may be lost, either in trial or the fact is they're acquitted on motions, the person's going to get off, and there's not going to be any type of watch over these people after they get out. And I'm not sure if we mentioned before the show or during it when we were talking, but currently we're seeing, even with the changes we made, an increase in acquittals. And
right.
If you can explain that a bit.
Historically, sex crimes have one of the highest rates of not guilty verdicts. So in other words, a greater percentage of sex crimes that go to trial, juries come back and say not guilty. Oftentimes, because the evidence is the word of a victim, frequently a child who doesn't want to testify, against the word of an accused. And because we are still developing the SIUs, the quality of our evidence is not always as strong as it could be. Every time we crank up the penalties and we make it more likely for a defendant that he or she, and unfortunately typically they're men, are going to go to jail for really, really long periods of time, we increase the likelihood that they're going to insist on a trial. The more trials we have, by definition, the more not guilty verdicts we have, the more not guilty verdicts we have, the more people who might otherwise be supervised are out free. And we hear a lot about recidivism rates, how often these people reoffend. Mm-hmm. Statistics will show that prior to arrest, the number of victims is very large. But after arrest, and particularly after conviction, the number of new victims is very small. In other words, we actually do quite well in keeping convicted offenders from re-offending. Right? Obviously, there's some exceptions, and there's one that's making a lot of news, understandably. But the goal really needs to be, let's get these people convicted on proper evidence. That's going to do more to improve overall public safety than ratcheting up the penalties more.
Absolutely. And one of the other things too, Linda, that I think was very good is what we've done with our sex offender registry. The sex offender registries, because when they first came into being, they wanted to, there's always constitutional challenges of what you can and what you can't do, so states were very careful. What we've done in the last 2 years is we have made sure that the information that's available to the public is readily available, and that police officers and the law enforcement community can advise people in the communities that there has been somebody who is now released, he's on probation, or in your area. So the word is disseminated a lot more. Also, we crack down and we've increased the penalties for people who fail to report or fail to register, and to the point now where before a police officer would have to go and get a warrant if he was going to arrest somebody. Even if I knew you were a sex offender, here I was, a police officer, I knew you didn't register. Prior to the change we made, I believe 2 years ago, was that we would have to go and get a warrant for your arrest, come back, find you again, and arrest you. Well, now we can arrest you without the warrant. If we know for sure that you have not registered, then we go ahead, we can do that. So there are a lot of things that we have done, I believe, that I think strengthened the protections that we have out there for the children and for the communities. And I guess what I would like to express and really have the communities have a dialogue is the fact that every one of us in Montpelier, every one of us in the court systems, law enforcement communities, I can't imagine anybody not wanting to do the utmost to protect a child.
That's right.
I just feel that it's there. But while it's incumbent upon us to do that, to make sure that there are laws that are there and to enforce the laws and to prosecute the laws, we still have constraints. We still have the constraints under the Constitution of the United States, the state constitution. We have to play by the rules. And if we don't play by the rules, then we are not going to get successful prosecutions. These people are going to just get out and they're going to commit the crimes over and over again.
To say, John, that the challenge for you and your colleagues in Montpelier will be extraordinary come January, because you will likely be starting a legislative session after you're reelected with the most extraordinary, visceral public pressure that we've probably ever seen in the state. And legislators are humans, and they too will have a visceral reaction. Part of being in government, though, is having the ability to move beyond the visceral reaction, to step back and to take a broad-based view about what is good for Vermont and what is good for justice. And the visceral reaction and the visceral desire for vengeance doesn't always equate to what is right and what is just. And I know it's some months away, but I already feel the pressure and the tension that will be brought to bear upon you and others.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah.
I just wanted to make a comment, too, that I'm so glad that you guys are here to discuss all this with us. There's a lot of people out there, you know, they have questions and they don't know, and I think you sitting here and answering the questions is absolutely great. And I had one other question, if I could. I think there's a lot of people that would like to know the laws in all of this and get a little educated. Is there a way that we can, like, kind of take a community and, like, have an educational, you know, where you can actually sit down with some of the people that maybe, you know, have some questions, you know, because, you know, we can sit here and talk about this, but there's still going to be people that want to know, you know, the answers to their questions.
I'd say tell us where and when.
That's right.
I mean, I think a community event would be great.
Right, and you know, giving them the opportunity, I think it would be wonderful too, because you guys have you are sitting here and thoroughly going into details of what these laws are and what's being changed and what's being done, and I think it would be wonderful myself. And I want to get into a little bit more, if we could, about what is happening or what is going to happen, what's going to change next. I think you were talking about.
I think what Bob had mentioned is, and these are some things that we've been discussing for some time, is, you know, putting the money into the investigative side. Let's put some money into law enforcement to allow them to be able to catch these people before they commit the crimes. Let us identify who these people are. What Bobby said at the end is so true, because there's going to be so many people, and this is what drove me here to discuss this with you today, because I was very upset with the fact that there are many politicians, and I'll call them politicians because that's, you know, and I say it almost in the pejorative sense, that have been going around the state and saying we need tougher laws. They don't even know what we have. They don't even know the laws that we have. They don't know the changes that we've made. And the only reason they're doing it is to pander to try to get votes for them so they can get elected. And there's nothing worse than using a tragic event like this to do that.
Absolutely.
And so then there's going to be a pressure to do all these things that in the end might hamper the actual successful prosecution. When we changed, we fought this whole minimum mandatory battle a couple of years ago. We were called soft on crime because we weren't going to do this. But it was those of us and those in the victims community and the prosecutors that realized that you're going to do more damage and you're going to put more people out there who are to continue to commit these crimes than you'll ever get under if you put those minimum mandatories on, mandatory minimums. And so it's going to be a battle to try to, you know, say, I'm not soft on crime. But if we're doing our job as a public servant, then we are going to have to look, as Bobby said, stand back and take a look, not from our hearts, not from our emotions, but in a realization that if we want to do the job, if we want to successfully find these people, prosecute these people, we want to put them behind bars where they'll never hurt another young child again. We have to do it in an intellectual fashion.
You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
And this is what I can see for a benefit, especially for a show like this. And I'm so glad that you guys came here and did this, because there's so many people that are going to be sitting there in their living room saying, you know what, way to go. Right. Thank you very much. That's what they're going to be saying, and they know that you guys care enough to fight for us and for our children. And I just can't say, you know, how grateful I am.
The number of people who form this powerful, immediate reaction about what the best next step is. But then when you sit down and have a discussion like we've had, you know, sort of the light bulb goes off, and they say, what my gut was telling me was the right thing to do isn't maybe the right thing to do. And so to the extent that there can be more discussion about that, I think that would be really helpful. Because here's what's going to happen. There's already a petition drive to gather signatures for the death penalty, 25 years, and those people really hold up the banner of victims' rights. But every victim group in this state, and I think every prosecutor in this state, says mandatory minimums are bad for victims, they're bad for public safety. So I am not going to be shy about saying long mandatory minimums are bad. I think it's we need to be, I don't want to say proud in our opposition, but they do not help victims. They do not help the public, and that voice needs to be heard.
Exactly, and maybe by doing this, then maybe they will be able to hear it. Maybe they will be able to broaden their visions, you know. And I mean, myself, I would love to continue with the discussions at any time, you know. Well, I think certainly if there's anybody else that would like to come and maybe have the discussion, and I think that would be great. I would be
more than happy to have, and I think would be a great thing to have at the American Legion or something like that. Have a community meeting here and explain that to folks. I think that would be great.
I mean,
you know, I think we could probably arrange that.
Well, if you can do it, I'd volunteer.
I'm sure.
And I'm sure Bob
Sign me up.
You would.
I mean, you know, the better educated people are about the significant steps that the legislature has taken already, and the better informed they are about where we might go from here, quite frankly, the more likely we are to make positive changes as opposed to negative ones.
Yeah. Absolutely, and you know, they do have the town hall meetings, you know, that, you know, like Bernie Sanders and Peter Welch and all them go to. Yeah. We could arrange something like that, I'm sure.
Yeah.
You know?
Maybe, I don't know, the Justice Center might help if there's some interest in doing that. I mean, you can really tie it all in together.
Yeah, we could do that.
The victims, like I said, the Vermont Center for Crime Victim Services, I'm sure they would be more than happy to
It would be
there.
great, you know.
It's an excellent idea, actually.
Yes, yes.
Sort of a round table. And
absolutely, and you know, I'd be there.
Yeah.
Right.
I'll be right there with you guys.
Because you're always there to help out. So.
Well.
Anyway, Linda, thank you so much for giving us this time, and you know, it's wonderful that you have provided, I think, such a great forum for people in our community to not only discuss this issue, but the important issues of domestic violence and about mental health issues, and
you know, when they're so connected, you know, mental health, addiction, violence, everything is so connected, you know, and by having you people come and listen. You know, hear our stories and listen to us and actually react like you are reacting to this. I think it's wonderful. And we can all see that you guys care, you know. Even so many times people say, oh, they don't care, you know. Yeah. When actually, you know, John's a close friend of mine. Did you know?
One of the things that I must tell the public, if you can give me on one of these cameras here, because I don't know if Linda's done this, because she probably hasn't, but I think it's important, is Linda recently was awarded the Jack Berry Lifetime Achievement Award, and Jack Berry was probably one of the finest journalists in the state of Vermont, and that award is the highest award given to journalists in the state. And our own Linda Carbino won that, and she so deserved it. And when she was given the award, I don't think there was a dry eye in the entire place. And so I felt, I do feel so proud to be your friend and to know you and to know what you've provided to this community, because by God, you've done more for so many people than some of the people who always claim to have done a lot.
Well, you know, it takes people that care about you to be able to care about somebody else. Yeah. It's called spreading it around. You know.
Well, you've done it, and I'm very proud of you, and I'm very proud of you, and I hope the people out there that watch your show.
And I want to thank you for the resolution too.
Yeah, well,
it was read on the Senate road. I got that all framed at home. It's my Jack Berry. You got that in my Jack Berry.
Yeah. You know? So, anyway, I think we're out of time.
We are just about out of time, but I want to thank State's Attorney Robert Sand, and I want to thank Senator John Campbell, and we are going to get back together. We are going to have a discussion. We're going to arrange this so that all of my viewers can come, no matter where you are, Montpelier, Barrie, Burlington, wherever. Just come, show up.
You know, also, if I could, if we have 30 seconds,
sure.
If I can ask your folks out there, the ones that are watching this, feedback is so important. Bob knows this, you know, and if you feel that you've learned something from this program today and that you understand a little bit more about why we don't have Jessica's Law, and if you could call your senator or your representative and express that to them and say, listen, we have heard this, we understand that there's more to this story, just go up there and do a good job, and that really would go a long way. And if you do have questions, please feel free. I know Bob would, I'm sure, would be more than happy to field any questions. I would be more than happy to. My number's in the book, and you can get Bobby over at the state's attorney's office.
And there's a website. Isn't there a website that people can go to, or is there?
I'm not sure. There is one for Sex Offenders Registry. They can go and see if there's anody. In fact, I recommend that you go into.
You guys need a website for this. Yeah.
Yeah, you can go on the government website, the state of Florida, the state of Vermont website. And they have right there, you can see Sex Offender Registry. All you do, you can put in your name. You can put in, Mickey Mantle for whatever you do. I guess, oh wait, this is Red Sox. So you can put in, anyway. But you can put Windsor County, and then that'll bring up all the people that are on the Sex Offender Registry. And you would be surprised how many people you might know that's on that registry. So go ahead and do it. If you have any questions at all, don't hesitate to pick up your phone and talk to your local police officer, your local law enforcement community, or law enforcement officer, or you can call us. And that's what we're here to help. And hopefully we've been able to provide some type of information and giving you some kind of guidance today.
And I've got to encourage you too to call your legislative and call the state's attorney, call anybody you want, because they are listening. And I know for myself, the phone was pretty heavy for a long time, but when I did, I found out that people were listening. So I encourage you to call. I mean, just call, You can email me too at walklife@comcast.net. You know it better than
I know it now. That's right. Or we
can,
yeah.
Right. Yeah. And you can also call CATV for a copy of the show, or you can see the show. We'll be airing it a few times.
Right.
And it'll be on the CATV website. So, you can get all the information you want, and we'll be following more on this story, doing more.
Or if your community would like us to come and talk to them, I'm sure we'll be able to arrange that.
We can arrange that, or you can arrange that.
Whatever.
I'll give him a call.
Because my wife's going to go, oh yeah, where are you getting all this time?
Just make sure you have the coffee. Coffee and donuts, right?
Yeah.
Very good.
That's just an
chocolate milk.
Chocolate milk.
Anyway, again, thanks so much, Linda.
Thank you, Linda.
Well, thank you both, really. We'll do it again
Great.
soon.
Now we're going to have the music.
Okay. So this is Linda Carbino signing off and saying goodbye for Walking Through Life, and we'll see you next time.
And we also thank Rachel, one of the finest producers.
Rachel. Good producer.
That's right. She's a Hanover girl, but we'd like to try to get her over to Vermont side.
Yeah, maybe she'll
Thank you, Heather.
Heather?
Heather, I'm just
Rachel.
No, Heather's over there.
Oh, where's Heather? Oh.
Okay.
All right.